I'm Gina from Clayroom, and I'm going to show you guys how to make your own clay out of dirt from your backyard. So here, the first thing I did was just dug up some dirt in my backyard. So these are just big chunks of dirt and clay and rocks. My backyard, it seems like, has a lot of natural clay already, so it's already really moldable and plastic. But for those that don't have this, it's still possible. So all I have here is 2 buckets. I have something to stir with, a old t-shirt that we're going to be straining the clay through, but you can also use just an old sheet of fabric or a kitchen sieve, like a metal sieve, or a sock or a pillowcase, and then of course shovels to dig, but you can also just use your hands, and that's all we need. And then one more container actually to put everything in to drain the water off. So we'll get started. Okay, so I've added my water to my clay / dirt. And the next thing I'm going to do is use some kind of stick to stir up the clay, and adding the water is what's going to separate the clay from the dirt, and the rocks will hopefully sink to the bottom, and then we're going to transfer it to another bucket, but for now I'll start with just stirring. So I've mixed the clay as best as I could. I used my stick a little bit, I used a shovel, and then I used my hands, as you can see. Probably more so because the clay was just really chunky and it wasn't breaking up unless I really got in there with my hands. But if you don't have really sticky clay, then you may be able to do it just with some kind of stick. So you can see it's a pretty thick consistency, I think also because of all the clay that I have. So now I'm going to pour this into this bucket just to let any bigger chunks or big rocks kind of sink to the bottom. So you can see all the bigger chunks and rocks there that I couldn't get to, so I'll kind of try to strain that off and just get more of the liquid form. Okay, so I attached my t-shirt as a sieve, but here again you could use a metal strainer or a sock or just some old fabric to strain hopefully the clay going through, and all the organic material, leaves, rocks will stay inside the t-shirt. So I secured it really well with rope so that it doesn't sink down with everything else. So the t-shirt did not work, so we made this contraption of an aluminum tin, and then I just used a needle or a safety pin and poked a bunch of holes in it in place of a sieve or a strainer. But if you have a kitchen strainer that you can use, I would suggest using that. Okay, so I finished the sieving, so now I'm going to pour the pure clay into a container. So first I'm going to stir the clay up because it's all settled at the bottom, so to make sure that we get all the pure stuff into this bucket, I'm just going to stir it a little bit. It's stiff down there. Okay, still settling. Okay, so once it's all stirred, I'll pour this in here. Get another container. And now I'm just gonna let this sit until tomorrow, but probably only needs just a couple hours. And then we'll see how the water will rise up and the clay will sink to the bottom, and then we'll do what comes next. So it's tomorrow. And my clay has settled, so I'm going to drain off the top part of the water and the watery stuff and get all this dirt. So with some assistance, I took the clay water and poured it into this old t-shirt and then tied it up, and now this is going to get tied up onto a tree or something that it can hang off of, so that hopefully by tomorrow, but it's supposed to rain, so maybe a couple days, the water will have drained out, and we should have some clay at the end of it. We have clay. So yeah, you can now easily mold it just like regular clay that you buy at your studio. You can make pinch pots, you can do coil building, slab rolling. I ended up, per Kelly's suggestion, Kelly from Clayroom, sticking my clay in the oven for a little bit at like it was at 100 or 125 Fahrenheit. I just put it in a dish, and it was in there for at least like 2 hours. Took a while, just because the weather, I guess, is so cold right now and it was rainy, and so it wasn't wanting to dry in the t-shirt that I made for it. So I had to kind of speed it up for the video purposes. But maybe if it's warmer outside, it would work a little faster, but that's always a plan B if you need to speed it up or stick it in front of a heater or something. But now we have clay. So this is what I got from that big bucket that I originally had. So it doesn't make a whole lot, but just something to kind of play around with and practice hand building. You can try on the wheel. I don't know how that would go, but might be a fun experiment. But if you have your own kiln, or if you have a kiln that you're allowed to fire this in, you can make like some small tests first just to make sure, because you never know what temperature this clay fires at, and you don't want to risk hurting other people's pieces. So just something to kind of play with while we're on this quarantine. And you can just keep rehydrating it with water if it starts getting too dry, and same processes, just adding water as it starts cracking, just like regular clay. So yay! This is my first time making my own clay, so that's why it was a little rocky, but figured it out eventually. And there's tons of other videos on YouTube that you can watch and see different processes on how to do it, but we did it, yay!